Okay, everybody. Here we go.
Is nature's way of aggregating the diverse perspectives of a population and maximizing their collective wisdom. And let's be honest, we humans are pretty smart as individuals, but in groups, we're not always that wise. That's because groups don't do a great job of combining their diverse perspectives. We use votes and polls and surveys. The problem is polls are polarizing. They drive us to entrench, exposing and reinforcing our differences, but doing nothing to help us find common ground. A swarm is the opposite. It's flexible and dynamic, revealing where we agree most. In other words, swarming doesn't just make a species smarter, it makes a species wiser. We should be able to form a true superintelligence. And because the building blocks are people, tapping not just our knowledge, but our values and morals and sensibilities, the resulting superintelligence will not be alien, it will be human, just smarter and wiser. We might be able to solve some of the hardest problems we face, like poverty and inequality and sustainability. So the next time somebody uses the phrase hive mind as a negative, remember this: if honeybees could observe how we humans make big group decisions, like electing our leaders, or resolving our conflicts, or planning for our future, they might think we're the primitive ones. But not for long.
In terms of their interests, that's the A team, but they always have the B team that they can run out. Jimmy Carter, when Richard Nixon makes the nation too angry, or the nation gets too riled at the Vietnam War, or something like that. This is where they produced Michael Dukakis. He's a team player to the establishment. In order to be accepted as a presidential candidate, he did homage to the arms race.
We're talking politics today. Caffeine, you're on the bench. Xanax, suit up. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
All right. How are you? That's a little hive mind for you. Everything is sustainability and climate-y and eugenics-y and abortion-y and all of those things. And we've developed into these hive minds. I'm showing a graphic right now. I want to show you something kind of interesting before I bring Melissa on. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what you don't know about the right-left paradigm, and a little bit of like what we have in common, what both sides, of the both tribes have in common and whatnot. It'll be a fun hour. But I do want to say this, though, okay? So there's a couple of things. By the way, Patrick Byrne, possibly tomorrow on tomorrow's show. So he'll be coming on. He's got a new book out, Patrick Byrne. He's been on the show before. And then, of course, Dinesh actually reached out, and Dinesh D'Souza, and wants to do the show again. And this, I think, will be like his 8th time on the show. And he's got some projects he's working on, so he will be on as well. Not tomorrow, but he'll be on soon. So we're trying to figure out time-wise. So it'll be interesting to hear from him too. So I just wanted to show you something, okay? I asked ChatGPT to give me an image, and I said, I really want an image to kind of show. Let me show you this image. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Rumble, you'll be able to see this. Now, I said Team A, Team B, Democrats, Republicans, and I wanted it to be over. This is what I told ChatGPT. I wanted it to be over the United States. You've got your masters, and then you've got puppet strings on the right and the left. Now, I didn't tell it to do this, but in the top of the graphic, it wrote "theater, not democracy." I was laughing because I'm like, well, of course it would. Of course it would put democracy, because they have now labeled it a democracy. And whenever I hear the news, and mostly on the left side of politics, whenever I hear them use the word democracy, I always laugh because I'm like, we're a republic. A democracy, you don't want to be a democracy. That means that the bigger group, the loudest group, which is usually the most stupid, because truth usually resides into small groups, right? So the loudest group is not always right. The loudest group is not always ethical and moral. And so you don't want just a democracy. You want a republic. A republic would be those individuals who would hopefully have high character. They don't anymore, because have you met who's in the Senate and who's in Congress? But what's fascinating about this is that it made the word democracy. So then I said, okay, now you have to put republic, and I wanted it big, and it didn't. It kept it small. You guys, I'm not kidding. This is so funny. So. Yes, yes, Johnny Midas on YouTube. Democracy equals mob rule. Yeah, you never want mob rule. You want ethical people, where the group of people then hires the most ethical person with character to represent them. But that doesn't always mean mob rule, right? So that's why we have a republic. It was designed that way. We do not have a democracy. But I had to show you this really quick because it was AI trying to again insert its level of non-logic. Like, I'm going to insert an agendized term into this graphic for you without you even asking. And then I said, okay, I want you to show. So here's Team A and here's Team B, and here's some of the high profile Republicans and high profile Democrats, which, by the way, are all on the same team. And then I wanted to show Team A, Team B, because the clip that you heard was John Stockwell, who was in the CIA, talking about they insert Team A, then they insert Team B. If the country gets too riled up about Nixon, they insert Jimmy Carter, but the agenda is the same. I also wanted to pull your attention to this really fast before I invite Melissa on, and this was the headlines today. Okay. It's El Said, progressive rocks Michigan, big win for the left. Muslim Americans celebrate, president rages. Do you see the theater? Do you see the theater in the headlines today? Every single day it's this. Get riled up. This person got in because of election fraud, they won't say. And you should be very mad. To the right and to the left, see, the leftist got in. Well, behind the scenes, the agenda is the same, the narrative's the same, everything's the same, but they have to have this theater happening. So I just wanted to show this because I was just almost just laughing at the headlines today. Big win for the left. It goes right back to this, the hive mind. So Team A, Team B. But we're going to talk a little bit with Melissa about this, about lists, about what we have in common, about just about everything. But I also, you know what? Let's start here. Let's start here. Okay. Melissa, how are you?
I am good.
Okay.
I'm just wishing I could be the hive mind.
Oh my gosh.
I've always wanted to be a little bee.
I mean,
just a little bee.
Did you hear that coming in? Being a bee, being a little worker bee is a good thing. Having a hive mind is a good thing. You guys don't look at it as a negative. It's super positive. I was just laughing. I just thought, oh my gosh, they're really selling us a box of rocks.
Yeah, that's the narrative. You just go and be a little worker bee and you won't own anything and you'll be so happy.
Yep.
And the queen will tell you what to do.
Yep. And stay angry at the other side instead of who's messing with both sides. But so let's go. I can't wait to talk about what you've got today.
Well, this is a hot tip to a YouTube channel that I like and watch frequently called Wolves in Finance. And it's kind of a small YouTube channel, but I just he's very thought provoking. He's an accountant type. So he comes from a different angle than I usually think myself. But he did a little clip this week, it's a very short little video about something that he saw on Reddit. Okay. And we know that Reddit is the source of all truth, right? But,
well, I mean,
anyway,
it's a good, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
This is not a scientific survey. It's just kind of an anecdotal look at what it is that those of us on both sides, what do ordinary Americans agree on? Mm-hmm. There's more that we agree on than that we disagree on. And I want to make sure that I make something really clear. I'm talking about ordinary people. When you walk down the street in your neighborhood and you see the people that live in your neighborhood, some of them are Democrats, and some of them are Republicans, and some of them are independents. And I think we would all be shocked to find a lot of common ground that we all share. Because we're fed constantly by the media that Republicans are this and Democrats are that.
Well, just look at the headlines. I mean, big win for the left, president rages. I mean, they're so instrumental in conducting this theater stage game every day to make every side like want to implode on each other. And you're right. I mean, it's...
Well, that's because, I mean, let's think about why that could be.
Okay.
And we'll just spring it at the beginning here and then see if our facts stack up.
Okay.
I think the reason they do that is because there's no money in agreement. There's no money in peace. There's no money in cooperation. If you want to run a political campaign, you have to distinguish yourself as different than the other guy. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you're really highlighting the differences, or you're making more of the differences than they really are.
Okay.
And I think that comes from the media. I think it's a propaganda angle. And I think it's media and the political cast, if you will, that feed that.
Okay.
I think if we actually were talking to our friends and family and left the media out of it, we would find things that we agree on. So let's talk about what some of those things are. I think you'll find it surprising how much agreement there is and in what ways that unfolds.
Yeah.
Because it really is kind of an interesting thing.
Okay.
So number one, the first issue. Do you agree or disagree? There's too much money in politics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're utilizing our money, and then whatever they do with it, it always comes with money laundering. And then so there's money laundered. They never do it right, and then they're paid these exorbitant salaries and for life, which they constructed and voted on. And yes, there's so much money in politics, and I think to sway the public into believing the wins in public service. And I think when I'm thinking about this, I think about my own Congresswoman, Celeste Malloy. She's a complete lying sack of crap. And I would imagine, I mean, she's very woke, but she's disguised herself as a conservative, and she's not. And the thing about her is that the Republican Party, even though she's woke and she has a Constitution score less than 50%, which is about the same as most leftists, they don't care about the Constitution. She just votes how she's told. They put money into her campaign to make it look like, see all this money flowing, this is why she won. And so the money is used for several different reasons and guises in different ways. But yes, there's so much money flowing and money printed that it's just this open bank account for them. So yes, I agree. Both sides agree with that for sure.
Yes. So here's what the data said. This is from a Politico poll that was just conducted in May of this year. So this is a very recent poll. 72% of Americans agree that there's too much money in politics. Okay. 77% of Trump voters and 80% of Harris voters said that. That's pretty hardcore agreement. Okay. 61% said billionaires have too much influence on U.S. politics. And 67% said there's too much special interest money, specifically in elections. Okay. That's a lot of agreement.
Good.
If you want to have a good conversation with your neighbor who is politically very different from you, talk about that one for a while.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe all this money. And don't feel the need to defend the Republicans on this, because Republicans are saying there's too much money. They're not saying, oh, there's too much money in the Democratic Party and not in ours. There is bipartisan agreement that there's just too dang much money sloshing around in the hands of politicians.
Right.
And I agree with that almost entirely. There's been several other polls that come out with almost identical results. There are 3 polls that are named here that all show the same thing. 72%. You're more likely to agree with your Democratic neighbor or your Republican neighbor, as the case may be, that there's too much money.
Okay. What's the next one?
The next one, issue 2. Term limits are needed in Congress.
Okay.
Now, what? Okay, let's start with 72% is our baseline. Is it we'll play the prices right, higher or lower?
I don't know.
This comes from a McLaughlin and Associates poll on term limits. 83% of voters say that there should be term limits on Congress. 85% of Republicans and 77% of Democrats and 84% of independents.
That's an interesting one because I don't agree with it. I don't agree with term limits, and I'll tell you why. In general. So the term limits they have those for presidency, right? So they already have them. Have they worked? No, because they control elections. Okay. So they'll just get in somebody else that is going to do a worse job than the person before them. But I don't agree with term limits because it stops us. We think that the mechanism for doing what's right is going to be in the term limit and not the character of the person going in. So what happens is if you have somebody with high character that wasn't bought and owned by various countries and by our own establishment, then you could have somebody stay in who could keep voting the way that they were supposed to. But that's not going to happen. So what people do is they believe in an illusion called term limits, which would be a mechanism for them to breathe easier and go, oh yes, now we're saved because of term limits. So if you get in a bad egg, there's a term limit and they're going to get out. The problem is if you actually look through history, you're going to find that bad egg was replaced with a bad egg, was replaced with a bad egg, was replaced with a bad egg. So it's never gotten better. So that's why I'm saying it's an illusion. It's an illusion like messing with the Constitution and trying to get it to say things and wanting to be able to go in and reconstruct it. It's an illusion of something that's happening in our best interest, but it's not actually happening in our best interest. Does that make sense? How do you feel about data center? I mean, not data center. Sorry, I just read that word.
About term limits?
Yeah, about term limits.
I think the time has come seriously for us to consider it. Partly because we have right now Mitch McConnell, who is, I believe, now conspiracy theory Melissa says Mitch McConnell's dead. I think he's dead, and no one is willing to look at it. If there was a term limit, we would at least have that. And I'll tell you something else. I live with I have a son who lives with me still in my house. And younger people are looking at the age of the people in Congress and they are just shaking their head. If for no other reason, we need to save the country from accusations that boomers have completely ruined the country.
Yeah.
We need to spread the wealth. Do you know what I mean? I know my son he'll add up. Like if you take Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and a couple of others, you know, you take the ages of 5 of these people and you're looking at 500 years of age between them. You know, they're really, really old, and there's a building resentment about that.
Well, I just don't think it's in
a serious
the person.
Resentment about it. And I just, yes, I see your point, and I kind of agree with the point. But since we have thrown out the way in which we elect senators from the constitutional method anyway, we might as well term limit them. I would like to see some younger faces in Congress than Nancy and her 500 facelifts. Seriously, I would like to see something. Somebody needs, and maybe that's bad because younger people are more and more choosing for socialists. The new face of the Democratic Party is going to be a lot different than the old face.
They're more indoctrinated into, like, say, this word, let's see, democracy. So they're into democracy. They don't even understand what a republic is. They don't understand our Constitution. I think most of the younger folks, I know they know there's a problem, but I don't know that they know how to resolve that problem. And the only resolution is in not having a software-laden election fraud. So if the government controls their own elections, the parties actually are controlling their own elections, then we live in a banana republic. And because of that, I don't think term limits, I think, are like a show pony. It's like term limits are like for the characters in the theater, the characters in the show, but it's not. Because you remove a character you don't like, another character comes in, but they will be just as bought. So the agenda moves forward, but it makes us feel better. So that's why I'm against. Well, I'm not honestly, for term limits.
At this point, I'm about feeling better. I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Sometimes some of this is so depressing. If that makes us all feel better, then let's feel better. We need to quit being so depressed.
I just would hope that in the event of feeling better, that we understand the bigger picture, because if the bigger picture is what I'm talking about, and the reason that I wouldn't be out there just thinking term limits is the solution, I'm just hoping that we see the bigger picture of both sides being owned.
The poll didn't ask whether you think term limits is the solution to government anything.
Okay.
It's just, do you think we should have term limits? And yes, I do. I do think we should have term limits. I think there comes a point at which some of these people just need to be gone. They need to be gone. They need to go away and leave us alone now. And, if you can force some of these people out, then at least you have a shot at making a change. But, even if you can't, even if Nancy Pelosi's district is always going to be represented by someone who's like her or worse, at least there's a chance.
But unless
we change their mind over time, but it would help to reduce a little bit of the machine nature of certain elections.
See, I don't think it would. And I honestly go, the way my mind thinks is, unless you get rid of election fraud, then they pick bad egg after bad egg. It doesn't matter who they prop up. It's a young face, old face, however they hire them, just like in the case of Alex, they hired somebody from 10,000 people and she won the casting call because she's the most idiotic and can be told what to do. And she sounds the most moronic. And the leftists go, yay, Alex. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So no matter who they put in, the agenda goes forward as long as they control the elections. If they didn't control the elections, then I would be open to certain things. But as long as they control the elections, it's
well, hold that thought.
Okay.
Because we're going to come back to some other things that voters agree on that bear very much on what you're talking about.
Okay.
So just hold on.
Okay.
Okay. The number 3 issue was, and this one was kind of surprising to me. A recent poll by the Cato Institute found that 76% of Americans believe that the federal government spends too much money and they would embrace cutting wasteful programs and smaller government.
Okay.
That's a surprise because we don't hear very many Democrats ever talk about that.
No,
ever.
They love government. They want government to solve everything, handle the money, do the programs. They love government. So, yeah.
So what I'm going to say is average Americans are united on that, but we are out of step with both parties in DC. I don't think, I think that's all smoke and mirrors, that Republicans actually want to see smaller government. They never, ever act on that.
Oh, no.
They never repeal a tax. They never shrink the size of government.
They never got rid of Obamacare like they promised. When they had the power, they never got rid of it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that we, the people, think the government is wasteful, and we want smaller government. Now, what I also think, there is a bit of a disconnect. Democrats are only 59% on that answer. Independents 80% and Republicans 93%, which may be why we think that this is a Republican topic, because that's a pretty big difference. The difference between 60 and 93 is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
However, when you take all Americans together, it's almost 80%.
Interesting.
Of all Americans, regardless of political persuasion.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So the other piece of that is wasteful programs. Government. A lot of people are saying the government spends too much money. This is a really interesting number.
Some people call it waste. I call it money laundering.
Well, yeah, a rose by any other name.
Let's be real. Yeah.
Yeah. How much money is wasted is interesting.
Okay.
56% of Americans said the government is almost always wasteful. I agree with that one. They are. The Partnership for Public Service in 2024 found that 74% of people believe the government is corrupt, 85% considered it wasteful, and 66% said the government is incompetent. That's a really great number.
Yeah. See, I don't think they're incompetent. I think they just use scapegoats and make it sound like they're incompetent. I actually think many of them know exactly what they're doing. You have like a percentage of people that know exactly what they're doing, but they hide behind excuses. And then you have the rest of them that are dumb as bricks. And I know this because I've interviewed, you name it, I've interviewed them, and I'm telling you, they're really kind of stupid. They're dense. They're not very smart. And that's why they hire them. You know, like a Celeste Malloy, like our congresswoman, you can tell her what to do and she'll do it. She's just a lapdog. So she's not very bright. And so I think that there are people that are just not bright and then people that are intentional. But they always go to incompetence because then everyone can go, oh, they're just incompetent. They just don't, I mean, they'll learn their lesson, but they don't know what they're doing. I'm like, oh, they know. They either know or they're doing it because they're told. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think?
Well, having worked in the federal government for a while, I worked for the federal government for about 10 years. And I would tell you there is a lot of incompetence. There is a lot. And that doesn't mean, you know, it depends on at what level are you talking. I'm talking about ordinary rank and file federal employees. There's a lot of incompetence. There just really is.
Okay.
So let's go on because there's more. This is kind of subcategories under the same heading of government size and waste.
So this is what we have in common.
This is what we have in common.
Okay, go ahead.
85% of Americans said that an increase in federal government spending over the previous decade made no difference to their quality of life.
Wait, say that again.
85% of Americans say that the increases in federal spending over the previous 10 years made no difference to their quality of life.
Yes, I agree with this. I went back into like the early 1900s and they were in Ohio, in the state of Ohio, they were handing out money for welfare and it amounted to the amount of about $4 million. And I mentioned this on the show, I think last week, but they actually said, you know, they said a lot of that money because the churches used to do it and the public was doing it. And then all of a sudden it reverted to where the government got $4 million of the tax dollars and they were doling it out as welfare and they were increasing socialism within the state. Now, this is the early 1900s in Ohio. And it even said, it said it was making zero difference. In fact, they finally realized that $4 million at the time in the early 1900s could have paid for every man, woman, and child in the entire state, not just the poor, but in the entire state. And it didn't even help the poor. It didn't even touch it because of money laundering going on. So the money laundering was going to those heads of the situation, right? That were the ones that were administering the money, the control mechanisms of the money, but it wasn't actually going to the people. But the leftists are so stupid that they would actually believe that it was going to the people. So they would pat themselves on the back every day and go, oh, look at what a good thing we're doing. We're diverting money from the tax dollars into helping the poor. But when you looked at the result, it never actually went to the poor. Like I said, they could have funded every man, woman, and child in Ohio and made them a quite nice living from that money of that $4 million. So even back then, they realized that these socialistic programs were were an enemy to the republic, they weren't even helping. And the churches and the private people did more, vastly more, in helping people survive being poor or if they were in an emergency. But isn't that crazy that they knew 120 years ago that this was not the answer? But what did they do? They kept doing these kinds of programs. And leftists are so stupid that they go, yes, more please, more of that, even though we knew over 100 years ago it was not working.
Well, here's what's interesting. 8 out of 10 Democrats believe that increases in federal spending don't make a difference, and 9 in 10 Republicans. That's a lot of agreement.
That's a lot
8
of agreement.
out of 10 Democrats and 9 out of 10 Republicans. I want to clarify this again. I'm not talking about politicians talking into the CNN microphone.
Right.
I'm talking about the average person living on your street.
Okay.
So let's separate out what we hear from the talking heads in the media and what politicians wanted us to hear all the time.
Okay.
Because there's the idea, if you keep telling people the same thing over and over again, eventually it becomes the truth, right?
Right.
But rank and file ordinary people do not like increases in government spending. Where's the rub, though? The rub is, what do you cut out? And there's a big disagreement in Republicans and Democrats about what do we need to eliminate.
Okay.
If I say, well, should we reduce Social Security? Should we reduce Medicare? Should we reduce?
We should remove.
What is it that we should cut? Suddenly there's going to be a brush fire.
Yes. And it does go to the word reduce versus remove. So if you understand real government and you understand how these programs came about and how we injected socialism into this country on the right and the left, which both, by the way, did not vote against it, coming in, was the fact that even reducing. So what we do is we get into a conversation about reducing, but we don't talk about removal anymore. And that's really what we should be doing, is removing.
Well, here's what Americans say about government spending.
Okay.
So 76% say the government spends too much. Americans estimate that 60 cents out of every federal dollar is wasted. 60 cents. That's what we believe.
Okay.
60
That's what we have in common.
dollar.
Okay. Interesting.
98% of people in this poll believe that there is waste, fraud, and abuse in federal spending. That's almost everybody believes that.
Yeah.
99%. There's nobody out there going, oh, I just think they're so honest. Nobody
But there
that.
is 25% of the country that thinks that they're doing a good job with the money that they take from us, that they plunder. That means they're taking it illegally from us, taxing us to the hilt. That means 25% of the country actually does. I mean, I love that a high percentage actually realizes that there's taking money
Waste
and spending
and
it waste.
Yes.
But the 25% of the country thinks it's great. I'm like, ouch.
No, it's 98% think that it's bad.
I thought it was
right?
70. I thought it was 70 something. Sorry.
Well, 76% said they spend too much.
Oh, okay.
But 98% believe there's waste and fraud in government.
Okay. So, but
89% of people, for all the hullabaloo about the Doge stuff, 89% believe that the federal government spending should be audited.
Okay.
Who knew that?
Right.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have a fit about that Doge stuff. Well,
Okay.
who was having a fit? The people who had their hand in a till.
Yeah.
That's who had the fit.
Right.
64% said reducing government spending would help the economy. And 64% want to address federal deficit spending through spending cuts rather than tax increases. 64%. Those are pretty substantial numbers.
Yeah.
That's not a small number, but we don't ever hear, aside from maybe Rand Paul, that talks about any of this. Why don't, the question we should be asking ourselves about all of this is, why don't they talk about these things? They don't talk about it on the campaign trail. They don't talk about it in their press conferences. These are things that voters think are important, and it's just crickets out of DC.
Yep. Notice how they always talk spending cuts or reducing government, never removing it, never taking these departments and ending them. It's kind of interesting, the word choices and the things that we actually say and talk about in in the media, like you mentioned the media before, the media is really good at mastering the conversation so that you only use certain terms and certain ways, rather than pointing out to the populace that most government could be removed tomorrow, needs to be removed tomorrow. It's so interesting to me how that works. Isn't it to you?
Well,
like just the conversation.
Why is censorship such an important issue?
Right.
Because they have to, if we can listen to alternative voices, then we have a different perspective to compare their rhetoric against. That cannot be allowed. They have a certain perspective, they have a certain way of manipulating us, and they don't want us to hear anything else.
Yeah.
Look at the vilification of Candace Owens for an example.
Okay.
Whether you agree or disagree with her, I think she has a perfect right to say it, and we have a perfect right to hear it. If you don't believe her, that's fine. Don't believe her.
I think a lot of what she says is true. I think a lot of what she says is true. I just think I think they divvied it up into groups within the Republican Party so we could be at war with each other. In between Team B, there's Team C, D, and E, like all squished into Team B. So it's like so that we are warring factions. But there's a lot
let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
This next one is a hot button issue here in Indiana, of all places.
Okay.
Issue number 4 is ending daylight savings time.
Okay. So what we have in common on that?
64% of Americans want. Now, this is a nuanced thing. What they want is they don't want to have to change their clocks.
Okay.
And they think that ending daylight or adopting, there's a movement afoot right now to adopt daylight savings time all year round. So let's explore that issue. There is reason why we don't go on daylight savings time all year round. The first thing that everyone needs to embrace is that you can't change the number of hours of daylight there is. And I hear this all the time in Indiana. Oh my gosh, it gets so dark so early in the winter. And I'm like, it's not going to change. We only have so many. We live in the Northern Hemisphere. We're going to have dark days in the winter. That's a fact.
Yeah.
If we went to permanent daylight savings time, and this has been done in the past, it was done during the energy crisis in about 1976, I think. Here in Indiana, if we went to permanent daylight savings time, the sunrise would be after 9 a.m. in the morning. And it would still get dark at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So people who are sleep experts say this is very bad. It is very disruptive to our circadian rhythms. And we need that morning sunlight in order to get up and be energized. Now, when they did this before, Congress, I find this to be a fascinating little history tidbit about it. The adoption of permanent daylight savings time is only ever voted on by Congress in the summer when we have these long, lovely summer nights. It's almost always repealed in the winter when people have to deal with what a 9 a.m. sunrise feels like.
Okay.
So it's been repealed. It was repealed a long time ago. The sleep experts actually advocate for a permanent standard time, Eastern, like we would here in Indiana, I would be on Eastern Standard Time, which means I lose those long summer evenings, but I do reclaim some better sunlight in the morning when people are getting up. When they repealed permanent daylight savings before, it was because there were something like 12 or 15 children that were hit standing at their bus stops in the first 2 weeks of that. Because they're standing at a bus stop. Elementary school children are standing at a bus stop in pitch dark at 9 in the morning. Okay. And it makes it harder for everybody to get up. So there's all this agreement. Oh, we got to do something about changing our clocks.
All right.
But nobody really, we're just, that's just kind of a knee jerk thing.
Yeah. And kind of a superficial when it comparatively to all of the issues and challenges we face. They like us to kind of focus on those rather than the deep, like removal of government or the fact that, the Constitution.
I personally like daylight savings time. I'm one of those minority people. I actually like it. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Don't you like having it get dark in the summer at 9 o'clock?
Oh, I do. But okay, what's the next one?
Let's move on to number 5. This is another surprising one.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the things, this comes from an NBC News poll. Shows that 75% of American adults say that trans women should not be allowed to play in female sports. 75%
of
is
both
that the
sides.
Sense you get from? Do you get that sense from any news you ever hear about
no,
this issue?
You what you get is the media. Oh, so the media tells us this, right? But yes, the fact that you would think most leftists and Democrats want them in sports, but you're saying 76% of both parties, of both the left and the right theater tribes are both saying that they don't want it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's 75% say transgender women should not be allowed to participate in female sports.
Okay.
That is a statistic. Interestingly, when you break it down by age demographic, Gen Z, people who are 18 to 29, are polling at about 36% think that they should be allowed, and 64% are opposed.
And I would imagine most of those go to public school.
Even among Gen Z, it's still 64% say no.
Okay, interesting. But despite public school and all the agendas, government school and all the agendas. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So a 2025 New York Times poll found that 79% opposed it.
So can I just
a New York Times poll?
Interesting. Okay, so just to let people know, I was on the Dangerous Info podcast. Big shout out to those guys on Monday night, and we were talking about this, and they were saying, we were talking about the presidencies, and I said, well, in 2020, they had the little puppet Biden actually kind of go to bat for the whole tranny movement, right? So in 2000 to 2024, all we ever heard was trannies are some of the biggest groups of America. Trannies are taking over tranny. And trannies are taking over the White House, and we're changing Easter to Trans Day or whatever the hell they were doing. So it was all about tranny. And I said, well, they basically took that issue and highlighted it so that in 2024, we would feel like that was going away and we were getting our country back to normal. Now, the country will never be normal until we go back to the Constitution. But that was the byline. It was like, see, tranny stuff isn't shoved in our face. But what I'm here saying is that the tranny issue was raised above all other issues so that 60% of the country that's conservative would be like, oh, hell no. And we want our country back to normal where the tranny thing isn't taking over. So it was used as something. And the tranny section of America is very small, but they tried to use it as a catalyst so that when the right went in 2024, that they could do things to the country. Because if the tranny issue is taken out of the equation, everyone goes, oh, our country's back in normal land right now, so we're not going to fight anything that's going on. And so they did it for complacency. But these are the things that are used within the presidencies to make you think that this is taking over now that's gone, now it's taking over, now it's gone. And they do this with social issues. But I just wanted to say that as another reference point that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, because what you're saying, Melissa, is that we are in a lot of agreement on trannies can't be in sports, right? Which
no, it doesn't say trannies can't be in sports.
Okay.
It says that trannies can't compete in their cross-gender sports.
Sorry.
If you're a transgender woman and you want to play football,
you're right.
Have at it.
You're right. Sorry. Yes, exactly right. So, yeah.
So I think that comes across most clearly.
Yes.
Like we all watched the Olympic thing when the transgender woman just beat the crap out of the natural biological woman.
Yes.
And insisted, no, I was born a woman.
Yeah.
But when they
Yeah.
did, when the Boxing Federation did genetic testing on that person, it came back XY.
Yes.
So all the insistence on, oh, I was born a biological woman. I'm sorry.
They
want my definition of a woman is called XY.
Exactly.
That's a woman.
Exactly. I framed that completely wrong. So yes.
Excuse me.
Trannies,
I said the wrong thing just now.
It's okay.
X is a woman.
Yes. So trannies in their corresponding sport, like as a woman or as a man that they're not biologically, yes. I would hope that most Americans would see that as a big event, as a problem, as something that shouldn't be going on. So yes, I'm just saying it was used by the presidencies. Yeah.
The 25% that want this are apparently all on our elected school boards.
Yes, that's so true.
All I can figure.
That is so true.
Okay, here's issue number 6. And I think this was the one that surprised me absolutely the most.
Okay.
Are you ready for this one?
All right.
76% of people in a Columbia Law School survey believed 72% believed that the Second Amendment gives individuals the right to own a gun. 72%. 76% of respondents are opposed to attempts to ban gun ownership. Boy, you never hear that from the media. Never.
Yeah, God gave us the right to defend ourselves, not the government. The government's supposed to protect it, but
where
they don't.
It all breaks down. Is that most Americans also believe that some restrictions on gun ownership are appropriate. And then you get this whole big spectrum of how much restriction and who should be restricted and how we do that. But hardly, at least 76% are saying we do have a constitutional right to gun ownership.
Yeah.
But, none of us want certain types of people to have unlimited access to guns.
Yeah. But I
people
do think
who are in mental institutions do not need to own a gun.
Right. But I do think we do have mechanisms in place, but the leftists act like we don't. So the leftists are all about trying to control that issue more and more, taking out piece by piece of our Second Amendment, which is so ridiculous, and trying to transform it. But
there's a broad gap between what Republicans and Democrats will propose about gun control or gun restrictions or however you want it. But most of the country believes that is a valid Second Amendment discussion. That is a valid thing. That was very surprising that it was that high, because if you listen to anything on the media, you would think that the whole country is howling to get rid of guns, all guns.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
That's not true. The media supports what they want to support and tell us the narrative they want to tell us. But in actuality, most of the country understands that we should have a right to defend ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yes, exactly.
Well, good.
So number 8, this is the one I told you to hold on for.
Okay.
Because this is another one. 92% of people from a Brennan Center poll said that government corruption is a big problem.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, at least
92%. It's 90% of Republicans, 93% of Democrats, and 93% of independents.
Interesting.
That is the leading thing upon which we all agree.
Yes.
Do you know what? The other 7% are the people who disagree with that are the 7% who are holding elected office.
Okay. So the leftists blame the corporations when they should blame a politician's agreements with corporations, because at the very end of the day, the politicians allow the corporations to do what they do. But the leftists get hung up on corporations, and on the right, we get hung up with the Democrat as the enemy and not the government lying about what they're actually doing, the agenda. What do you think?
Go back, remember, and link what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
To people believe there's too much money sloshing around and corruption is the problem. And some of that say billionaires have too much influence. And you have a really interesting picture of what the American public actually believes about its government.
That's interesting. So the media tells us, I mean, if you just listen to media, which is owned by the government, it's the government media, just like we have government schools, which we say are public, but they're not. They're government schools. So the government media shoves in our face a certain narrative, but you're saying most Americans obviously understand that something is very wrong. Well, I think what the problem is, the disconnect is what's wrong. So which part of it is wrong? So if you ask me, we don't abide by the Constitution anymore. We do everything in our power to ignore it and grow government. Right. So, but a leftist would not agree that that's they agree there's a problem. They just wouldn't agree with that being the problem.
Well, here's what's interesting. 85% say, and this is the leading number on this survey, that Congress is the corrupt. It is the biggest source of corruption. Congress.
That's
it's
so
Congress.
funny because
congressional problem.
Well, yes, because they hold the purse strings, right? They hold the money, and so that's why it's every 2 years that we reelect. Well, not reelect, insert selection. Every 2 years rather than a longer term for a senator. So yes, I think they have more power than the Senate.
Congress implies both of them, House and Senate. But only 68% view the presidency as corrupt.
Oh, interesting. Presidency has the most theater, but yes.
62% say the Supreme Court is corrupt.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I wish 100% saw that. Yeah. What was the percentage?
Those are very interesting numbers.
What was the percentage?
What we need to do?
What was the percentage on Supreme Court?
62%.
Wow. Only 62% actually seek our bought and sold judges. Interesting. Okay.
That's just the Supreme Court. That's not all judges across the board.
No, I know.
The
Supreme
highest
Court
federal level.
Yeah. Interesting.
So 68% on the Congress, 85 on the Congress, 68 on the presidency, 62 is the Supreme Court. That means our three branches of government are viewed by a lot of people as corrupt.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. So if we want to begin to build bridges, and I think we have to build bridges with our friends and neighbors first, we can have those conversations, and I think there's the opportunity to have agreement at lower levels first. So talk to your neighbors about government corruption. Ask them, how would you solve it? We should be thinking about how would we solve it?
Right.
So I think there's power. We have power we have not yet picked up.
Okay.
And this is one of the ways you can pick up some power
Yes.
by starting to talk to your friends and neighbors about the things you agree on.
So you're talking about kind of the bridge. I actually wrote an ebook on the bridge, how to talk to your friends and neighbors. It's at katetalks.myshopify.com, along with the cancer one and the AI one and everyone else, all the other ones you need to have to tell the truth. But the bridge. So you're finding a bridge in which you could introduce a conversation. What I would say is introduce the conversation of removal, introduce a conversation that doesn't use the word cut, but remove, introduce that government isn't just spending wrong. They're much too large, that we need to get back to the Constitution, and that the Constitution isn't some ancient document and that as long as it's still in place, we still have a chance. But it's so interesting to me how the conversations have changed through the years to like, what should we cut instead of what we should get rid of? It's so interesting, isn't it? It's like we're all having, no matter right or left, we're all having wrong conversations about government when we should be talking about ending things and removals and things like that. But you never hear that. It's weird.
I actually believe that we have to find common ground.
Yes, to introduce any kind of conversation.
If the conversation is about cutting, great.
Yeah.
It's a toehold. Let's talk about that.
Let's
ask them, is there anything that you can see in the government that could be cut out completely?
Yeah, true.
Anything. Let's build on what we all already believe.
Yep. So
okay, number 8 is kind of a funny one.
Okay.
Number 8 is that chocolate is not the same as it used to be.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, what?
Chocolate.
Like chocolate,
is not
chocolate?
the same
Okay.
as it used to be.
Are you serious? This is one of the questions. Okay.
This is one of them.
Why?
And for those of us that find chocolate to be an important part of our lives, this could be very significant.
This is in the same
definitely
poll.
a conversation starter. I'm going to ask, though, instead of just thinking about chocolate,
okay,
how many people, and there is no poll asking this, but how many people believe that our food is adulterated?
Oh my gosh. Amen. Yes, I agree. Yes, our food sucks. Yes, our food supply.
I had I pulled a list out of all the different foods that they know for a fact have been tampered with at some level, meaning what you think you're buying is not what you're buying. Olive oil, honey, coffee, spices, Parmesan cheese. Who knew? They're substituting things that are not cheese into our Parmesan cheese.
Bioengineered food. That was under Obama.
Fruit juices, saffron, milk, butter, cinnamon, balsamic vinegar. You wouldn't think of that list. The biggest culprits are olive oil and honey.
Interesting.
Because it's almost that, and I heard this a long time ago from someone who owns a 100% pure olive oil shop. That what you buy at the grocery store, even if you're buying expensive olive oil coming from Italy, that in Italy the olive oil market has been tainted for a long time.
Oh, I agree. That's why I buy Atlas. It's from Greece. It's amazing. I buy Atlas olive oil. The link's on my website, katedalleyradio.com, because it's so high in polyphenol without having to pay for the high polyphenol. And that's what actually helps our health. It's called Atlas olive oil. But anyway, yeah. I mean, that's why.
If you go on in that direction and you ask yourself, well, how do people feel about GMOs and what's the other one? You just mentioned it. Lab cultivated food. A lot of people, it's about 60% of Americans are not interested in lab grown meat. They're just not. They don't want to eat it. They don't want to have any part of it.
Thank you, Lord, because if you're interested in Petri dish meat, I'm not quite sure how to talk to you. So because it's absurd. I mean, it's disgusting. So I can't even imagine somebody wanting that.
Well, yet again, here in Indiana, I was kind of glad to know they did do something at the State House, making it illegal to sell lab grown meat in the state of Indiana, because they said we have meat producers here. We want to protect our agricultural markets.
All I can say is buy local honey, buy local meat. I buy local. I buy local in all of those. So, and Atlas olive oil.
Yeah. And if I don't think I mentioned it, but Wagyu beef is one of the things on the list. There are things that are labeled Wagyu beef in our markets that are not. And I know we have a local meat producer here in my town that produces Wagyu beef, and you can tell by the taste of it that it's different.
Right.
So know your producer as much as you can.
There are funky things going on. And Costco, by the way, selling, the lab, like salmon and stuff, the lab grown. Oh, I mean, all coming from China with its little cesspool sauce on. I mean, I hope people are looking at labels. I really do.
So, by the way, the chocolate issue, just by way of information, is because buying cocoa butter became so expensive for chocolate producers, and the FDA says they're allowed to substitute lesser vegetable oils into the production of chocolate, like a Hershey bar. That's why it tastes different than what you remember it as. However, Hershey's, if you believe the propaganda, Hershey's said, right now the cost of cocoa butter has gone down, so we're going back to the original formula. I don't know. Choose whether you want to believe it or not. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's wrong. Okay, number 9. This is another surprising one. 75% of registered voters across the board support Trump's policy of deporting illegal criminal aliens.
Say that again.
75% of registered voters support Trump's policy of deporting illegal criminal aliens.
All right. So why isn't it 100? I'm just asking. I mean, I know that's high compared. Like, I don't think people realize that that it would be that high, because it seems that most leftists, that's what the media tells us anyway, is completely for criminals that are illegals. But why isn't it 100? I mean, can you imagine?
It's 93% of Republicans, 70% of independents, and only 59% of Democrats. So you're not going to get 100%. That there is a divide, a partisan divide on this issue. But if you begin to say 80% of registered voters, you can bump the numbers up. 90% of Republicans, 79% of independents, and 71% of Democrats believe that if an illegal has committed a crime in the U.S., they should be deported. Now, where the tear comes is, well, what about people who are here, who are holding a job down and they're not causing any problems? Should they be deported too? And there are a lot of people who say, no, we don't quite believe that. We think they should get a pathway to stay.
Which are mostly on the left side of the tribal mentality, right? Because what's funny about this, and this is my comment to those people, this country is not your gift to give somebody. But a lot of the leftist theater, Tribe A, is all about, I want to give the gift of America, and all of you get to have to deal with it, but I want to give the gift of America, even though it's not my gift to give, because I'm going to feel better as a human. And it's like, yeah, you need to be vetted coming into this country, just like they do all the other countries. So there's no problem with being vetted. The founders thought we should be vetted because of our ideology mostly. And it came down to the founders having discussions about ideology. What is your ideology? If you're coming in as a socialist, we don't want you. If you're coming in without understanding the republic that we're forming, we don't want you. That's what it was supposed to be about. But leftists, I'm sorry, they're kind of retarded in the way that they do not understand history, nor do they read it. On the right, we don't either in some ways. But I just find it more on the left. They have this idea that this country is a gift that they can give people. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, it's not their gift.
If you want to have the conversation with your hardcore, whether it's your kids or whoever, don't start the conversation by saying, America's not a gift you get to give. Start out by saying, well, where would you like to draw the line?
Right.
What about the guy who's murdered and raped and, committed whatever kind of larceny they've done? Do you think they should be allowed to stay? Build from the common point and then advance the discussion further.
Okay.
Because until we get agreement on that, it's just going to always devolve into this. Why do you have to hate all these other people that come from other places?
I know.
Well, I don't hate them.
It's funny that they don't find criminal behavior the same in just human beings. It goes from a citizen criminal to an illegal criminal, and somehow they get a pass. But the conversation we should be having in America is that people that our country has the right to vet people wanting citizenship in this country. We have a right to that, and that for years both sides have not done anything about that and let it just ride. And there's a reason for that, and it goes back to the graphic I'm showing, that it's team A versus team B, and the puppeteer masters that are putting into place all of this foreign, entrance of people into our country without being vetted, and that's the agenda. So the right or the left are always going to look like they're fighting it, but they never do. Just go look in history to say that if I'm right or wrong, and I tell you I'm right, because if you look at history, you'll see that I'm right. Both sides make it happen. Both sides.
And yet again, we're going to point out again, there's a big discrepancy between what ordinary people are thinking about and what the political class wants to tell us we should think about it. That's the hive mind.
Yes.
We want you to be the little worker bees and just do what we tell you to do.
Yes.
And we are, I guess I feel kind of encouraged by some of these numbers, because it's evidence that Americans don't think those things. There's a disconnect between ordinary Americans and the ruling elites and the media. That's the big disconnect. And I think there is untapped power in the voice of the people And we're going to have to really assert it. And we're going to have to assert it for everybody in order to make any change at all. Because they are not representing us right now. That's abundantly clear, that what's happening in Congress is not a representation of what the people actually want.
No.
Or some of these things would be addressed.
And if our government school of the Romans actually taught the Constitution and actually taught why the country was founded and how we removed slavery through the white Quakers, not Harriet Tubman, that was the narrative, that was the story being told. If we actually understood the country, if we actually understood what a republic was, we would do everything in our power to save it. We would remove most government, and we would go back to what it looked like and how we gained our money back in the 1800s. We actually would. But it's so interesting to me how the government school started in 1907 to change what we learned growing up. And it's kind of like that. Remember that little clip that we used to watch in the 70s, the bill? I'm just a bill, like I'm a sad little bill, but I just need to go to Congress.
I love Bill.
Yeah, but
I felt so sad for him.
But what we do is
all alone.
Right. But it was huge propaganda. It was huge propaganda because of the fact that we were told that every bill should become a law, whether it was moral or legal or not. Everything should happen. That poor little bill needed to go through. So the propaganda has been so thick that that's why we have the conversations that we do with each other. And that's why we have these two sides that are very disconnected, and the media fuels it. The media is so good. They're such liars and they fuel it. But it's so amazing to me that as Americans, we don't see how brainwashed we truly are. Like, we got to get to that level of understanding. And I think that's the disconnect. Understanding our history and the understanding how brainwashed we are is, I think, so damaging to both sides, because we're not talking about that. And if you do, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
I'm sorry, but those are pretty well-laden plans, long-term plans, in order to disrupt the mechanism of knowledge in our country and to perform the level of brainwashing that they do. So that's a long-term plan. And if you can't, if you identify the plan, you're called a conspiracy person. I'm like, wow, it's amazing to me.
Okay, this is the last one, number 10.
Okay.
And this turns out to have some of the strongest connection. Or it has very strong connection. It's not as strong as the corruption, government corruption. But this one shows a really significant disconnect, especially for Republicans. All right. How many people support artificial intelligence and AI technology in the U.S.?
Okay. What's the percentage?
71% oppose that.
They oppose AI.
They oppose AI.
The same 78 that are using it. That's weird. That's interesting. Okay. So that's high. That's high.
And that opposition to AI, in particular AI data centers, crosses all party lines.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
If you go to your local town meeting where they're discussing AI, the development of an AI data center in your hometown, you're going to find people there from all different perspectives politically.
Right.
Nobody wants it. So especially when the question becomes, how many of you want them in your town? Hardly anybody. Hardly anybody.
Yeah.
And there is concern. The concern is, there's concerns over environmental impact, there's concerns over energy usage, there's concerns over government corruption, there's concerns about privacy and what are the AI data centers really doing.
Do you find it interesting that the headline argument isn't over the abuse of the Constitution, but more about environmental? Isn't that weird? That's why I think a lot of the groups are leftist owned and paid for, because it's never about, this is a violation of our Constitution. So state or city or county do not approve this. It's always water and health and environment, but it's never about the biggest argument that should be had in this country is abuse by spying, because we're never getting rid of any spying in this country. No matter who's president, we don't get rid of it.
Well, for me personally, I'm concerned about both of those issues. I mean, I am concerned about water usage, and I am concerned about
sure, everybody
usage, and I am concerned about environmental impact, and I am concerned about surveillance. All of those things,
right? But shouldn't
spying
level be number one though? Because of what an abuse it is to our Constitution. I mean, to our rights as people in this country. I mean, that should be number one. That should be the thing that is heard around the world, is that they're spying on us, and we don't like this, and we're not okay with this, and we're going to fight this. But that doesn't end up the conversation in the media. Do you know what I mean? It's I think it's by design.
Well, we're seeing if you pivot over and talk about flock cameras, you'll find lots of agreement there as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
People don't like it. And if the flock cameras are not an environmental thing.
Right.
Nobody's saying, well, the flock camera is just using all the water.
Yeah.
People are saying about flock cameras, this is an invasion of my privacy.
Right.
I have the right to drive down this road without you surveilling me.
Yes.
I have the right to move as I choose without you tracking my car or, scamming out data out of my phone without my permission.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, but the disconnect, I'm so angry at my governor because he has been saying, I believe that every community has the right to decide on AI data centers for themselves. And then Trump came out and said, governors, you need to persuade your people. AI's data centers are going to come and they can't fight it. And you need to persuade your people. And we watched our governor flip-flop like a fish out of water.
Of course. Yeah.
He just flipped right around. I don't think he ever really meant that he thought that we should. I think what he actually realized was, I can take this position and I know that the people building AI data centers have millions of dollars and people in local communities in Indiana can't fight it.
Yeah.
We'll just buy their local town councils. We'll buy their farmland out from under them before they know what's happening.
Yes.
So he didn't have to take the hard position. But when Trump gave marching orders, he fell in line. That's not any kind of integrity.
So, I mean, okay, on that note, I want you to comment on this. So a lot of people are coming to me and I'm getting messages about now people are anti-Trump. So a lot of people are confused. And I keep saying that the entire thing is theater. The entire presidency is literally a role they play with zero power. We want to think they have power, but they don't. Not the kind of power that we think, okay? And that the presidency has become all powerful, but it's a stage play. So I want to get your take on why the sudden anti-Trump narrative, okay? I think it's a narrative, but not for the reasons that most people do. You tell me what you think about that.
Well, I think that a lot of us wanted to believe that a very rich man could actually represent us and fight the system. That's what we wanted. We wanted that very badly. We wanted to believe that. I think what we have seen, and I think where it changed for me personally, was the very bad handling of the Epstein files, believe it or not. I think when Trump did not come forth and was not transparent about that and is not still, a lot for a lot of people, the shackles kind of fell off our eyes. Like, who's he protecting and why? I just had a friend who I've been friends with for a very long time politically, and she asked me, why don't you like Trump? Can you explain that to me? Because I used to be a supporter of Trump. And I said, because he has not fulfilled his promises. And I think it's time we hold politicians' feet to the fire. Don't promise me one thing and then give me a lot of excuses after the election. So he promised America first. And he has not been America first. He has done the bidding of Bibi Netanyahu And that looks bad for him. He's not been an independent actor, nor does he even pretend to be an independent actor about it. He says straight up, yeah, I love Bibi. He's my friend. We're going to help him out. He also promised to end the Ukraine war in 2 days. He could do that in 2 days. Did he? He promised no other foreign wars, and now we're in a war with Iran. So instead of being boondoggled by a politician's words, can we please judge them based on their behavior? And I don't think his behavior passes the sniff test anymore. He's been the first shackles fell off my eyes right after the election when he brought all the AI guys out that he just loves so much. And I'm like, I don't love them so much. I don't trust them. I don't love them. I think those guys are bad actors. And Trump is all in on that. And he's out of step with the American people. He is a billionaire representing the billionaire class. If you think about everything from AI to war, which I think is generated to support and prop up the military complex in the US, or if you're talking about his undying loyalty and efforts to protect the Epstein class, all those things. That's why now you ask me, do I think it's all just theater? Well, what other choice do we have at this point to believe that it was so fast? His abandonment of his campaign promises without apology was very fast.
Okay.
So what else are we to believe?
Okay. So this is
okay. Go ahead and do me in now, Kate.
No, I really did want to get your take on this because I know both of us are asked about this. And there was something that happened when we had the Trump inauguration, and that was he actually addressed the people. I was listening to this myself and heard it myself. Otherwise, I would have never brought this up. So, and I brought it up on the air that he went out and he addressed his supporters, and in the speech, he did a little slip, and he said, when they put me in. Okay. And he made a little nod to the fact that this is all theater. Okay. So they pick their president by the theater. That's why they inserted Biden. That's why they inserted Obama. It's all about the theater of the parties. Okay. So that the office of the presidency really doesn't have any control because it's about putting them in. So he slipped. Now, I went on to ChatGPT, onto AI, and I said, find me this speech. I want this speech in the transcript. I want the whole transcript of when he addressed his supporters. They took it out. They literally took it out of his speech. Okay. Now I know I heard it because I was getting ready for work, and it was before I went into the studio. So I know what I heard. And so that's why, and I even went and wrote it down that he actually said these things. So, but they took it out. AI did not want that on record. It was taken out of the transcript. I will say this for people that that get caught up in personality, that get caught up, or am I anti, am I pro, am I a supporter, am I not a supporter, that the presidency has been controlled since the early 1900s. If we don't understand that, if we don't understand how it was taken over, and the person was chosen based on whether or not they would go along with the agenda. And as long as we understand that, no presidency since then has been completely on its own or viable as its own entity. And so in other words, they're not doing what they want to do. Even if they wanted good, what they're doing is carrying out agendas. And that's why they were chosen. It's why they stay in office. So in this country, a president can't be president twice unless they are full agenda. You are never going to go with a second term unless you are full agenda. So for the things that are happening now, the coming of the digital ID, the spying, all of the stuff that's on steroids right now, the wars, everything that's going on, BlackRock, basically all the money going through BlackRock to make it, to look like what it looks like actually to all of us. All of these things are happening because the presidency has been purchased. It is purchased by party. And then the strings happen by inserting, it's kind of like John Stockwell said of the CIA. He goes, but he was kind of a lefty, but he goes, I just want to point out that they put in Team A and Team B. When the country gets too riled up to make us complacent, they put in Team B. And then when that gets too riled up, they put in Team A. And we go back and forth every 4 to 8 years for a reason. That's why they were willing to put term limits on the presidencies, is because they wanted to be able to access that presidency and give it a bigger status in America than it ever was supposed to be. The reason it was called president was because it was supposed to be like a manager, not a president like a king. So the presidency is a complete illusion, and it's such a big illusion that we get caught up in, do you like him, do you not like him, is he promising this, promising that, did he deliver, did he not? That's what the theater is all about. It's like watching wrestling, pro wrestling. Do you like this character, do you not like? What did the character say, what did this character say? That's what this is all about. It is not about what's actually going on in the country and who's running it. So I think that if you can understand that the presidency was taken over with Colonel House back in the early 1900s, then we finally get an idea about what's going on in the country, and that all of the Team A, Team B, all the characters, the Nancy Pelosi character, the Alex character, the McConnell, the dead Weekend at Bernie's Mitch McConnell character, the very gay Lindsey Graham character, all these characters are characters. And that's why all you get in the press is he said, she said, that they said, this is what they said, get fired up. This is why the headline today is this. Progressive rocks Michigan, big win for the left, president ranges, Muslim Americans celebrate. This is all theater for the agenda. So that's what I think.
Well, then that's a very fatalistic way to look at things.
It is, because it is fatal for our country.
What would be your proposal to fix it?
Elections.
I'm not willing.
Actual elections. Actual elections that were real. That is how you fix it. If every county in America went back to paper, and we had then after we scoop up elections or not scoop them up, but actually get back real elections, then you have to have an educated populace and an awake populace, not the whole thing, because truth does not reside in big masses. That's why we call them the asses. Truth resides in the small groups. And so if you had enough small groups across the country that were awake and understood what I just said, then you could change the paradigm, right? People would start to understand how we've been lied to. They would understand how education is retarded, and it has retarded us since 1907 under the Carnegie and Ford foundations. We would then start to realize the problems here in America and kick out government as much as we possibly could. So you have to have an educated and aware populace, and then you also have to get our elections back. That's the only way you save this country. That's the only way that we have left. So,
well, and I would agree. I mean, I do believe that election integrity is the key issue. And that speaks to what we've talked about. That is a piece of the government corruption that people don't like. So, we just need to. So
when I say that, Melissa, I want people to understand this for just a second. When I say that, I'm not trying to be fatalistic. I'm trying to get people to understand that we have stood by, we've raised our families, and I'm guilty of this too. We raised our families. We've enjoyed what we think is freedom to a certain extent. We've enjoyed the gift that was given to us by being born in this country. And I love my country more than anything. I love this country. What it was founded on, I just love it. But we have enjoyed the gift so much that we haven't actually been on task to make sure that the gift stays what it was supposed to be. So we have allowed this to happen. So it's our own fault that we have allowed this type of narrative to be told to us, that we believe the narratives we're told, that we get kind of scooped up into this narrative. It's our fault. And that's why we only have a few items left to save us. if we were talking 75 years ago, this actually might have been a little easier to do with more options. But the only options we truly have left, because the software took over the elections in 2004, we are a banana republic without realizing it. Then what happens now to us is that we are only left with a couple of options. And they're the hardest ones, because to get an awake populace is very hard, since the CIA coined conspiracy theorist. If you say anything against what's going, the narratives, you're a conspiracy theorist. So it's made it almost virtually impossible for people to speak out of the truth, right? To speak the truth. COVID should have been a really big lie that everyone understood was a lie, a complete and total lie. It's just a word that they throw around. But people should understand how we've been lied to. But until we get to that, until we get to bigger groups of awake people, we can't get the country back. And I know it sounds fatalistic, because it is, because we've waited so long to see the truth that we're caught up in only having a couple of options. At least we still do have a few options. It's not over yet. We're not sitting in stalls yet, but I mean, it is what it is.
Well, I want to believe, and I do. I think I'm less fatalistic than you are, perhaps. Maybe that's that Midwestern thing that I have, that we can, number one, I do believe that it actually does make a difference. If you're looking at two corrupt politicians, sometimes one of them does make a difference over the other. Even if they're both corrupt, one of them is going to lead you much faster down a pathway that will be bad than the other. I do believe that. I also believe that you're right. I believe there's a lot of theater going on. We have become the bread and circuses people.
Yeah.
And
he said,
you heard me last week talking about, I believe we're at the brink of the dark ages again. Yeah. I believe we're a post-literate society. I believe that we are watching right now the disassembling of the Western world. And that's not a happy thing. I mean, I love to study historically the Middle Ages, but I didn't ever want to live them.
Well, I mean, so we're in a state of ignorance, and everyone wants a quick answer. Everyone wants, like, the quick answers to them are term limits and get in there and have and mess with the Constitution. And they've been sold that by both parties. By the way, the two parties are one of our bigger problems too. But
I think there's only one party.
Yeah, there's one party really in Washington. The two parties to get mad at each other and think we're all at each other's throats and we're all going to kill each other. That narrative is alive and well, even though it's a narrative. Yes. It's alive and well.
That's the theater.
Yeah.
And if you look, one of the things I think we absolutely have to do is we have to take the blinkers off and quit being tribal. You know what? I was a supporter of Trump. I no longer am, because I took the blinkers off and looked at what the man was doing instead of what he was saying.
Right.
I don't care what he says anymore. And if we apply that standard to people like J.D. Vance, he says a lot of things that are very appealing. But when you look at his history with Peter Thiel, you should be alarmed.
Peter Thiel, they're all CIA. Peter Thiel and JD are all CIA. And so when they say Peter Thiel bought the seat for JD, yes and no, they're all CIA. So they're going to install a CIA, and he's actually the insurance for the presidential seat. So basically it's VIP insurance. It's VIP insurance. They always pick somebody who's the handler for the president, and he's the handler for the president. I mean, all of this reminds me, and that's why I say supporter, not supporter. They train us in those terms. It's like, are you anti or are you for? Are you MAGA? So that was all a construct of the narrative. It's like, you're MAGA. I mean, it's just like, here's a bad word, I'm going to throw it at you because I'm too lazy to look into history and understand anything. So I'm going to go MAGA. But MAGA is generally a blindness, right, to the sides, because it's very tribal. And so all of it is part of this theater, for sure. Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I think I have greater respect for some of the things that Candace Owens is saying and doing, because she has stepped out of the tribal tent. She's on the outside of it, and they're coming after her hard.
Yes.
Now, one might wonder if that's theater. Maybe that's theater too. I mean, we don't know. There's circles within circles, and at some point you just have to decide, based on what people do, can you believe them? Based on what they're doing, not what they're saying, but what they're actually doing.
Well, and
we need a lot more of that. And by the way, I'm going to put an ad in here. If you want to go back to what our founders knew that we don't know, our founders studied classical history like there was no tomorrow.
Right.
Our founders read ancient texts, Greek, Roman, Hebrew texts, like that was their second language. And for some of them it was. Thomas Jefferson could read in Latin or in Greek. Yeah. We don't even read them in English. Yes. So some of the things that our Constitution is based on are based on very tried and true principles that came out of Roman philosophy, Greek philosophy, and the Bible. Yeah. But we have become completely illiterate in all of that.
Well, and we get into the whoever's president destroys us or saves us. And when they went into 2024, they built up the martyrdom. So we thought we were saved. And I kept saying to people, we're not saved. It's not about Trump. It's not about hating him or loving him. You're not dating him. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you see that he is a puppet of the puppet strings. And as long as you understand that, it never is about supporting him, not supporting, hating him, loving him. It doesn't matter, because if we believed at some point that he was going to save us, then there's a big problem. Yeah. If people thought Biden was going to save them, there's a problem with what we know, right? And if people thought Obama was going to save us, there's a big problem. So it's always is the president going to save us or destroy us, rather than the puppetry is destroying us. So that's the problem. Yeah.
I would agree 100% with that.
It reminds me of this song. Here we go.
I'm tired of going round and round. I played the game of love and love.
Stop the world and let me off, Waylon.
So stop the world and let me off.
I feel this way like daily. I feel it in my soul. Stop the world and let me off. Good night. It's just hard now, to get people to understand.
Well, the song that always comes to mind for me is Jokers to the left of me.
Oh my gosh.
Jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you.
Oh, it's so, yes. And make the world go away.
That's where we are. And I hope that some of these things that we've talked about today, the areas of common ground, that's the middle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us stuck in that middle spot. Let's build bridges with people instead of hating them because they're not MAGA enough, or they're a Democrat, or whatever.
One of the laziest things.
Let's focus around the issues instead of the label. Let's talk about what's really important for all of us.
It's funny. I put up a post about the theater, and it was funny because I had this guy get on, this total moron, and he goes, well, basically he goes, you're MAGA. And I'm like, actually, I'm not any of that. I'm not any. So what are you talking about? Like, it's the laziest way to insult somebody, right? And people use it as an insult. And I always find that kind of funny because it is lazy. They just they're not educated to know what to say. And so they just go, you're MAGA. like
that's okay.
Like end of conversation, and it's hilarious. It really is funny. But I know that there are people out there that think Trump's first term was real and the second term isn't. I've heard that a lot too. But all I want to say is, if you go back to Trump's first term, now I'm a registered Republican in my state and have always been conservative. Okay. But if you go back and you really analyze what was done in the first term to get our liberty back, okay, nothing. So we didn't do anything to get any liberty back. It was all caught up in Russiagate, which was a fake exploitive story, with General Flynn at the top of that, who's CIA, it was built around martyrdom, and it was built around the deep states after everybody. And so Russiagate. And So if you understand that, as a conservative, if you can grasp that nothing was ever really done, and the agendas all moved forward. We didn't get rid of Obamacare. We didn't do anything we said we were going to do, even when we had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So on the right, we have the ability, I think, a little bit more say than on the left, to actually look at what we're doing and to dissect it and say, this isn't right, or Mitch McConnell is a joke, or Lindsey Graham was a joke, and all of this, Mitt Romney was a joke. If you're really awake and you're conservative, you're going to see the problems in your own party. What I always find kind of weird is that I don't see leftists do that. It's almost like on the right is the enemy no matter what, but they never identify the people in their own party, the Bidens, the Pelosi, those character pieces. They never identify that there's something wrong. They just, it's the right. If you're on the right, you're our enemy. And so even in the Biden administration, if you want to call it that, because it was all theater, he was mumbling and eating ice cream if he was alive. I think he was dead, and they replaced that person because that person looked nothing like Joe Biden. But even if you went along with all of that, they still were trained by the media and believed it, hook, line, and sinker, that the right was still the enemy, and it wasn't the puppetry controlling the overall presidencies. So does that make sense? So it's like, I don't see that. I don't see people on the left taking to bat like the theater itself. I see them go, yeah, you on the right, you're horrible.
Well, that would be the hive mind.
That's the hive mind. Yes.
That's it.
You're right.
I just want to say, I heard Michael Flynn speak, and he said something very true. Whether you think he's CIA or whatever.
Oh, he is, but
this is what he said.
He worked for Obama too, but okay, go ahead.
He said, everything that you think you know is a lie. And then he paused and he said, think about how big everything is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And that's an absolute true statement.
It is true.
Everything is a lie.
Yeah.
And that's what all of us know it. All of us know it in our heart. We know that there's something very wrong. We don't know quite what to do about it. We don't know how to put our finger on it. We don't know where the problem is exactly. Many of us are so busy trying to live our lives and put food on our table and raise our kids and do all the things that we got to do that we don't really spend time thinking about it. But think about how big everything is.
Yes. And how the narrative pushes us to hate Marjorie or hate Thomas Massey or love Thomas Massey or love Marjorie or hate it's all the characters in the play. They're all characters as much as Pelosi is too. I feel like if you ask me and we're out to lunch and you want to know from me what I think about all of this, I think it's all theater. They're all pieces of theater. And that if we continue to resist that because we want lollipops and rainbows, not the leftist rainbow, but you know what I mean? Real rainbows, not how they perverted it, but real rainbows. If it's all we want, it's because we are the problem, because we have to get beyond that to save this country. Everyone wants to get told what they think and what they're hearing is right? So it's just, we have to break through the brainwashing somehow, some way. Or otherwise, we can never, ever truly get back to our country. We'll just keep going in the same direction unless we start calling a spade. And I think that the overall presidency, Congress, the justices, Senate, it's all been taken over. And it has been for about 100 years, but people don't want to see it. They just refuse to see it.
I'm going to just add this caution, though.
Okay.
We have to be ready.
Yeah.
Because I believe God is in the details too. We have to be ready for there to be a real candidate someday, even with all of this stuff going on.
Yeah.
We have to believe that there may be somebody out there that is the real deal, or else we're done.
Yes. America
we're done. And you can believe it's all a lie, but if you don't allow for there to be the possibility of a real person, you will never see it when it comes.
America would probably have to be broken up at that point in order to do that, to actually have a real person at the helm, and the parties would have to be ousted completely. But I'm with you on miracles from God, because I think at every turn in history, the reason it wasn't as completely 100% bleak was because God stepped in. Miracles could happen, but we have to be a worthy people for that too, a moral people.
Amen.
And as long as we're not, and as long as, like, I'm going to tell you something kind of funny. I watched an episode of Little House on the Prairie the other day, and my husband was laughing at me, and he said, "Why?" And I go, "You know what? Because at least they talked about God, and at least they were nice, cute moral stories, kind of like the Waltons. And at least they had like a nice, cute story to listen to that wasn't laden with the F word, and wasn't laden with sex, and wasn't laden with all the crap and the shite that we get on a daily basis served up to us on cable 24/7. And I had to watch something that I walked away from feeling good about and having learned something, rather than feeling like the world is just shite. Okay. So to me, so that's that's how bad it is for me when I'm dwelling in this crap. I actually have to go turn on something like that in order to feel decent. And so, and that's decent programming. If you have kids, those are nice, cute little moral stories for kids. But we have to be a moral people again, and we have to want that. And I think actually some of the movies that we're supporting and things that we're doing now that are good movies, like actually good programming, is a good sign. But I always believe in God, and he owns the whole thing. So there's always miracles coming in for sure. Yeah. Always save room for those.
And maybe the miracle is just that we're strengthened enough to take it.
Yeah. LB says we watch a lot of black and white. That is true. A lot of your older people like the old Westerns, because it's and a lot of the old programming, because it's not dads are terrible, women power, which is garbage, and men suck. It's always the men are pigs lie, and that lie has been going since the 60s. Men are pigs, and it doesn't have any of that. And so I understand why we watch that kind of programming, is because our programming does suck. It's awful, and it's laden with messaging at its core that men are stupid and horrible, and that gays and trannies are around every corner and in every show. And it's not true, because they're a very small percentage of what's out there. And it's just not representative of who we should be as a people, but it's directive, which means it's influencing us as who we are as a people. And that's my biggest worry with our media, with 24/7 cable, if you want to call it cable. But the programming that we have today is horrifying. So we just have to be really careful about what we swim in the muck with. You know what I mean? As people, we have to increase our character.
And, I mean, all of these factors play in, and I think what you're talking about is we need to be, as a people who are taking individual responsibility for what we're feeding our brain.
Yeah.
You know, Amen. Whether it's politics or whether it's entertainment, whatever it is, what are we feeding our brain? Are we feeding our brain things that are going to make us healthier and happier and strengthen our families and strengthen our country? Or are we feeding it the cultural slop that's being served up to us to destroy all that?
Amen.
And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that cultural slop out there.
Amen, Melissa. All right, you guys. And I'll be back tomorrow. So same time live. Love all your comments. I'm watching your comments, by the way, even though I can't comment on all of them, but they're great comments on the comment section. Go check them out on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble and X. And I really appreciate Melissa coming on board today. That was an interesting list. Thank you. It brought up a lot of good conversation to have. So thanks.
Some Midwest common sense.
Hopefully we won't go back to sheep. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. And I'll be back. Be faithful, be fearless. Make sure, by the way, I have to say this because please go get the ebooks. katetalks.myshopify.com. It supports the work. It supports the show. It keeps us on the air. And things aren't good for truth and media these days. So please support us, and go to katedalleyradio.com if you want to support us. Also, go get Cardio Miracle. This stuff, amazing product. Amazing. Cardio Miracle. If you're not taking this and taking in a double dose every day, something's wrong. So go take it. You'll feel so much better. I promise. So much better than how you feel now. It really has helped me. So Appreciate you guys. Thank you. And I'll see you here tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain. And love your comments, by the way. You can also call into the show live, and the number's on the screen. Thanks, you guys.